Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Sammy Brenner, back to lead another episode of the Meraki Unboxed podcast, my favorite thing to do. It is June. It is Pride Month. Yes, we are here to celebrate. We have a fantastic episode today with some really special guests that we'll introduce in a second. But before we get into the content of the episode today and talk to three amazing Merakians, I want to give you our shameless plug. If you want to collaborate with us, or you have ideas about the podcast, or you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to us, reach out to our team. We would love to collaborate with you. We're always game for ideas. So don't be shy if it makes sense to reach out and tell us some content, right? We've got new episodes every 2 weeks. But back to today. So we have got three guests joining us. And as you know, I mentioned before, June is Pride Month. So June is LGBTQIA plus Pride. And we're excited to be joined by Merakians. Some of my guests today are transgender, some are non-binary, and they're going to really open up and share their stories and talk to us about their experience. And we're also going to highlight QFAM, which is an employee resource group at Meraki that really is special and unique to our culture. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over and introduce our guest. So I'll start with Britta. Go ahead and tell me your name, your pronouns, and how long you've been at Meraki.
Hi, everybody. My name is Britta. My pronouns are he, they, and I am a brand new intern, network support engineer intern here at Meraki. I've been here for about 2.5 weeks.
Yay, welcome, intern. I love it. 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Crazy. And you're already in the office enjoying it. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today. Paul, I'll toss it over to you.
Howdy. My name is Paul. How are you? I am on the MR Insight team in engineering, and my pronouns are he, they, which is a shortened version of he, him, they, them, because I don't have a strong preference. So he, they.
Got it. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. Welcome, welcome. And last but certainly not least, Ryan, I'll toss you the ball.
I'm Ryan Fox. I'm an SRE engineer on our Linux platform team. My pronouns are she, her. I've been with Meraki for about 9 months now, just a little shy of a year.
Welcome. So happy to have you on the podcast. All three of you. Fantastic. So I want to start by hearing your stories and kind of how you got to Meraki in the first place. So Britta, I'm going to start with you. How did you, 2 weeks in, internship program, I love it. Tell us, how did you get to Cisco Meraki? How did you hear about it? And what about kind of the culture or the inclusive nature made you interested in joining?
So I didn't know that Meraki existed up until about a year ago, a little under a year ago. I went to the Grace Hopper conference in Orlando, Florida this past September, which is a giant conference for women and non-binary technologists. Also doubles as a giant career fair. And I went in not really having any idea what I wanted to do. I kind of was like, okay, I'll just talk to every company that I can see, learn as much as I can. It was my first experience being a giant room full of a bunch of tech companies. And I knew Cisco because I'm a network technician for my university back home. And so I was like, well, I know Cisco, I work with their products, I'll go talk to them. And I spent like 45 minutes talking to a recruiter from Meraki specifically. They kind of chatted me up. They were really, really nice. So much so that I kind of forgot that I was being sold a company for a little while. I was kind of just having a conversation about like how work-life balance works. And I was like, oh, right. I'm being sold a company right now. And then I kind of explained what I was interested in. Like, I was like, I don't really know if I want like, an engineering internship or like a support internship. I'm kind of on the fence of both. And she pointed me online to the Cisco jobs portal, and I read through the internship offer, and I applied, being like, okay, I probably won't get it. I don't really fit the requirements, but I went through a bunch of interviews. I went through 5 in total. I had 2 written and I had 3 in person. I met with different Merakians from different teams. I interviewed with a software engineer one time. I interviewed with I think I interviewed with a admin, like a person higher up on the chain at one point. And what I asked every single interviewer after my session was, what is your favorite thing that you like about Meraki? Or like, why did you choose Meraki to work? And every single one of them said the culture. They loved their coworkers, they loved their job, they loved going into the office every day. They purposely made time to go into the office or meet with their coworkers because they loved being part of something bigger, and they felt like what they were doing actually was contributing to something larger. And every other interview that I had with other companies, not a single person said anything about the company culture, which really stuck out to me because I was like, well, if these people really, really love their job, then I think it must be a really good place to go. And then after I got connected with the intern coordinator, and I've been here for 2 weeks, I've probably talked to over 100 people. People just smile at you in the hallways. They wave at you. They'll have a conversation with you for like 10 minutes. People don't even know me. I'm like, hi. And it's really, really just like overwhelming how, close knit and like how good the Meraki culture is. It's been really overwhelming in terms of the internship search process. I'm very glad with my decision.
Aw, yeah. I mean, that's a common theme throughout Meraki. People say, what's your favorite part about Meraki? And the culture and the people are at the top of the list for most employees. Yeah. So that's incredible that you even felt that at a career fair and throughout your interview process. Was it, let me ask, did you do a little digging in specifically about Cisco in terms of the inclusive nature and the programs we have and the EROs? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I originally didn't. When I first applied, I didn't. So I got the internship offer in, I want to say, late October. And so then after that, I was between 3 different companies. I had 3 different offers from 3 different companies, and I spent a very long time researching every single company after that. And Meraki in particular really stuck out to me because everything I was seeing was like these research groups, or I saw a thing where Meraki gives employees just a day off to go like volunteer. I believe it's called a giving day. I cannot remember what it is exactly called. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
but
time
I
to
thought
give.
that it was really cool how they built in like personal living into the work schedule. Like work is something that you do, but it's not something that you live. It's just a part of your life, if that makes sense. And I really liked how the Meraki culture didn't just stay in the workplace. It kind of followed itself outside of the workplace, and it kind of became a full wrap thing, specifically with the I'm so sorry, but you know what I'm trying to say, EROs.
Yeah, yeah, I do know what you're saying. Awesome. Well, thank you for explaining that and digging in and doing research before accepting the internship offer. So let me pivot. Ryan, what has been your experience at Cisco Meraki, and how did you land here? What was appealing to you when you were in your search to find a company?
Well, I am not an intern. I've been in tech for about 25 years now. I transitioned from male to female about 10 years ago, and I was at a big tech company at the time, but I was the first employee that had transitioned there. So I found myself working with that company's HR, setting policy and figuring out what benefits we needed to be offering, what was important to me and what I thought would probably be important to others down the line. And I looked at what other companies were doing, and I remember Cisco being very top of the line all the across the board with their LGBT related benefits. Um, and so a lot of years later, when I was looking for a new challenge, when I found something that was at Cisco Meraki, that was a very easy sell. I always thought very highly of Cisco, and was really nice to be able to join. And then, like when I looked up what Meraki stands for, and saw it was Greek for something done with love and passion, like my soul felt so at home.
I love it. Isn't that so great that it stands for doing something with soul, creativity, or passion, the word Meraki?
It is.
Okay, amazing. So you felt so at home. And Ryan, what was your process like going through the interview process? How did you feel? Did you feel that kind of inclusive nature? You mentioned Cisco was setting policies that were maybe before its time and other tech companies followed. Was that your experience throughout the interview process and now being an employee?
It absolutely was. My interviewers were a diverse set of individuals. Like Britta's experience, you could tell that everybody was very happy, very passionate, very human first. Um, and it was just absolutely somewhere that I wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's really incredibly special. Thank you for sharing that. So, again, June is Pride Month, and we want to dedicate this podcast to sharing stories and experiences from the three of you. And I'd love to ask each of you, what does pride mean to you as a trans or non-binary person? So, Paul, I'm looking at you. I'd love to hear what pride means to you.
Yeah. So let's see. I would say generally for me, pride is about like visibility, like solidarity, like acknowledgement of like a minority of the population's existence, basically. I would say like the biggest pride experience I ever had was like I went to a pride festival and I presented femininely there. And that was like kind of me coming out, or like it was a big step for me, I would say, like in public sort of stuff. And it was like I went to this festival, there's all these other queer people there to commingle with. People are like giving me compliments and saying how much they love my outfit. And then like I meet two of my like queer friends I had not come out to, and I'm just like, well, uh, this is part of my deal. And they're like, awesome. You want some snacks? And I'm like, yeah. And it's just kind of like very nice, fun, like high energy sort of day, and like kind of a celebration of this diverse set of identities that in your day-to-day life it like often feels like you're kind of like alone. So it's kind of like having everyone come together, say we're all in this together, and just kind of like yeah, just uh well, I've trailed off, but yeah.
That sense of community, though.
Yeah, yeah. Have a sense of community and like
Mhm.
remind everyone that, even in like however large a city, here's all of these people that came out.
Yeah, yeah. That is an incredibly cool experience. And I love what you said. It is a diverse set of identities, right? It is a spectrum. And I think pride, you encompass that well, is celebrating all of us for who we are and how we decide to show up, which is a really beautiful thing. What about you, Britta? What does pride mean to you?
So this is actually probably my first Pride Month being out to the majority of the people that I'm close to. It's very, very big for me. I would say, especially experiencing Pride in California has been an eye-opening experience. I'm originally from the East Coast, so big change. There was a giant pride flag in my apartment building. There's pride flags in the streets. I see people that look like me, talk like me, just out in public, and I feel seen in a way that isn't attention grabbing. I feel a part of like a community in a way. It's like this greater love in a way of like you can see someone on the street and you don't want to say that they're queer, but like that like they've seen something similar to you, and you just like we make eye contact and you nod at each other and you're like, yeah, someone sees me and they get it. But I'm very excited. I am actually going to the Pride Festival in San Francisco end of the month, which will be my first time going to a Pride Festival of any kind. So I am very excited to experience that for myself. So pride to me, I think, is a journey and a celebration at the same time of, finding who you are and meeting other people who are similar to you and hearing their stories and celebrating who we all are in this, large world of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in for a treat because Pride in San Francisco, there is truly nothing like it. It is the most joyous, celebratory time.
I am
It's
very
so fun.
excited. I actually might be walking in the parade. I
Yay!
think I might be walking in the parade. So that might it's a very exciting experience I'm looking forward to.
You should. If you get the opportunity to do it, you absolutely should. And by the way, congrats on coming out and this being really your first Pride where you can lean
Thank
in
you.
and celebrate in this way. That's huge. I'm so excited for you. Tell us, what does Pride mean to you, Ryan?
Um, to me, it very much is that celebration that everyone said. Um, I'm in my 40s. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I felt very bad about my identity as a kid. It was something that I hid and um, was ashamed of. Um, and pride to me is the casting aside of that and being out and happy and visible. Um, with the idea that that visibility can help other people not have to go through all of that self-loathing and shame.
That really resonates. And how beautiful that visibility is kind of your word that you're talking about when it comes to pride and celebrating who you are and being an example for others, right? Who might be going through what you went through so they know that you're not alone, right?
Mhm.
That's awesome. You know, I think as we transition here and we talk about a big part of pride is also allyship, right? And making sure that people in our community know about it and know how to ask questions and be curious and be supportive allies. I think that's a huge part of the pride community is all the allies, in our network. So can you give, Britta, I'll start with you on this one. Can you give us an example of what is like effective allyship look like to you versus, I know we had talked before and you shared an example where you were at a different company and it was certainly lacking. Can you kind of tell us what that looked like?
Um, so I think effective allyship to me is very much engaged listening. Like since coming here, I've met many people who are much older than me and much further along in their career, but who are also queer. And like so this yesterday, QFAM started passing out their t-shirts. They have Pride t-shirts every year, and I volunteered to help pass out the t-shirts. And throughout the 3 hours that I was there, I met like so many different people and I talked to a bunch of them, and I kind of just like immediately started talking about like who they were, why they were here, how they got here, and not all of them are part of the queer community, and a lot of them were like, oh, I have a family member who has transitioned in the past, or I have a daughter, I have a son, like, and I got to meet a lot of different people from different walks of life, and it was very, very cool to see how willing and engaged they were to support the people that they loved and that they cared about. Um, Especially at this company, everyone here is so open and willing to hear a viewpoint, at least in my experience so far, that isn't maybe not for like what they originally, what they thought or how they live their lives, but they're very much, willing and able to listen and sympathize or work with your viewpoints. See, like you said earlier, I've interviewed with other companies or talked to other people in different like areas of tech that have been very, lackluster in the way of their viewpoints. I've been side-eyed while I walk into an interview room because I don't really match my description on my resume or, other things like that. Or I'll mention that I'm non-binary and they'll, look me up and down and be like, okay, I've had that beat around the bush kind of attitude. But coming here, I got to, on all of my paperwork, I was allowed to like choose like my gender expression. There was an additional other box to describe it more in depth if you wanted to. Um, a bunch of other things that have just, been like, I thought about it and I was like, I didn't know those things existed in companies before. I've just been wowed about how, you know, devoted Meraki is to, be letting queer people be seen. Visibility really is the huge word here, and it's really much like Meraki is very devoted to letting queer people be seen as who they are and how they are.
Yeah, yeah, that's an awesome example, and thank you for sharing that. And good to hear that you didn't have that experience at Meraki, right, where you got side-eyed or looked at in an interview, because that's just that feels isolating, right, and not welcoming and inclusive of who you are. What about you, Ryan? Any examples of strong allyship, maybe versus times where you didn't feel it?
I don't know that I have a ton to add to what Britta said, but um, what popped into my head was that how great of a trait it is for engineers to be open to other viewpoints and be empathetic and be human first. Like I'm so proud that that was your experience here, and I'm so happy to work for a company that I feel that way about. And I'm sure that that translates to better products.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. When people can show up and be who they are and feel seen and be visible, that's our word of this podcast. The output is better. The work is better, right? You do show up as a better employee if you feel seen. And there's a lot of research to support that. Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you. I mean, what do you think, if anything, because this podcast is public anywhere you can download podcasts, so Spotify, Apple, right? There might be folks listening who aren't at Cisco or aren't at Meraki. How do you think we can create more inclusive environments for folks? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about inclusivity is you need to be explicit about it. You need to, if you leave gray area, then or if you leave any kind of like, or yeah, ambiguity, it's easy to just kind of assume status quo. So that's the sort of thing where it's like, if you make an ERO and you say this is a space for queer people, that's being explicit and saying these people are welcome here. We made a space for them. If in your like company bio and stuff like that, it's like you allow specifying pronouns and everyone like engages in the sharing of pronouns and respects those, that is kind of being explicit about something that may not affect everyone, but those affected by it are appreciative of it. So I would say generally it's like that kind of intentionality in both like policy and culture, and yeah, just taking an interest in other people, learning their stories.
Yeah. And then living it. Not only taking an interest, living it, the intentionality piece behind what you're saying is so important. Like in Workday now, we can add our pronouns, right, to our profile. That's one small step, right? Cisco is saying, we're hearing you, we see you, we want to be more inclusive. So thanks for calling that out. I'm curious
Even in
about,
the, sorry.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Even in the interview process, I whatever form I filled out asked my pronouns, and then like while my recruiter read back the feedback or some of my feedback, and like my pronouns were respected in the feedback, and that was like a major green flag for me, I feel like.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That happened for me as well in my intern interviews. They asked me, so I also have a preferred name as well. So they asked me my preferred name and my pronouns, and that was reflected in every like interview, like pre-screening, post-screening, everything. It was totally transparent. Another huge green flag for me as well when interviewing with Meraki.
Yes. I'm doing my snaps over here. Go Meraki. I love that. That makes me so happy to hear. So I'm curious about your time working for Cisco Meraki. How has this professional experience been completely different for you? Paul, I know you mentioned a story just about one of the trainings that Cisco had. Can you kind of tell us about that?
Yeah. One of the, as with any new company, you join and then you get to watch several hours of training content. But one of the training modules was like about creating a conscious culture and just kind of being aware of other people, and yeah, just being a good, I don't know, citizen basically. But I was really surprised because there was a segment in it that was explicitly like how to ask a non-binary person their pronouns, and it was like a training video where it showed an older person and then like someone where you couldn't really tell their gender per se, like it was very mixed, and like the other person kind of like assuming one set of pronouns, and then later being like, oh gee, I messed up, like I don't know if that's their pronouns, and somebody be like, you can go apologize and ask, and then he did, and it was fine, and like everything moved on. And it was like, it was surreal to me because like I never thought I would be acknowledged in corporate training. I never thought someone would say, oh yeah, you exist, and here's training to help people interacting with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's such a differentiator with Cisco. Let me ask, I feel like so many people are scared to get it wrong that folks are intimidated to even ask, your pronouns, or non-binary, or what does that mean to you? Or what's the language? How can I be supportive? Like, what messaging do each of you have for folks who feel afraid or don't even want to say anything because they don't want to say the wrong thing? Like, what advice do you have to give?
I can quickly say okay, there are probably worse things, but one easy mistake to make is if you get pronouns wrong or something like that, trying to like act like it's a big deal or make a scene out of it. Like often if you kind of slip up or something, like the other person wants to not be singled out and get this interaction over fairly quickly or something like that. Like they don't want to be singled out. So like I would say like if you misgender someone, it's like you say sorry and then or if they correct you, you just like say sorry and use that moving forward. It's like very often like someone will assume I'm a woman and then I speak and then they're like, oh, what the heck's going on? I'm like, it's fine, just roll with it, sort of thing. So I would say for the most part, it's like be relaxed, be chill, and then like listen to the other person and, roll with what they want to do.
Okay. Anyone else?
A new experience I've had recently is I've had a couple people come up to me, like we were walking in the hallway or we were in a room. They would tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, I just wanted to double check, what are your pronouns? Like I had people just come up to me and ask in a private situation because I think that's made them feel a little bit better. I think there's a lot of like stigma around like, introducing yourself and being like, hi, what are your pronouns? Like that's okay. It's still new verbiage that a lot of people, at least my age, are still trying to get used to like incorporating into like, congeniality conversations. But I've had several interns come up to me and be like, hey, I'm so sorry I never asked you, what are your pronouns? How can I use them properly? And I was like, whoa, did not know that. Like I was very taken aback with them asking in the first place. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for asking. Here's here's my pronouns are. I'm totally okay. Like it's okay that you didn't know. And then they try to apologize and be like, it's okay that you didn't know. It's more the act of you coming up to me later and asking me one-on-one, being like, hey, how can I address you like in the right way to make you feel seen, was a lot bigger to me than you being like, I'm so sorry, and then like not asking later, if that makes sense.
Okay. So just going up to the person directly, maybe in a private situation,
Yeah.
and saying, hey, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Awesome. Ryan, anything to add to that?
I think that good intentions make a lot of difference. That it's easy for somebody who may be the target of incorrect pronouns sometimes to tell the difference when somebody is trying and wants to do the right thing than being purposefully misgendered. And so, as long as somebody's making an attempt, somebody's improving, I think that, that's generally easily well received. And I don't know what your all's experience has been, but I'm a transgender woman, and there are times where I will screw up somebody's pronouns. I feel a ton of guilt about that I am not perfect, but it turns out that I am in fact human, and I make those mistakes sometimes too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that and sharing that. And I have this Brene Brown quote in my head that I want to share with the group, which is, we're not here to be right. We're here to get it right. And so as long as you are well-intentioned, you're trying, no one's going to slap your wrist for that, right? It's just all about caring and asking questions. And it sounds like from this group, astoundingly, be curious, right? I think that's the most important thing, is be chill and be curious about it. So thank you all for sharing that. Paul, I want to ask you a question about kind of hybrid work and how that's impacted your experience. What are some of the negatives and positives about hybrid work in your situation, being non-binary? Like, talk to us kind of about your experience in that regard.
Yeah, so I am a full remote employee located in Michigan, the Midwest, and Michigan is not quite as progressive as California. So I would say one specific experience I had, like working at like a more conservative Midwest company, and then transitioning to a either hybrid or full remote role, was there was this like immense amount of pressure lifted from me in terms of like needing to get gender perfectly, I guess, to get my presentation right on the first try. Because in a remote situation, I can like play with presentation. I can try these different things like in my day to day. And like, I'm ultimately like have like a set of meetings I'm aware of where I'm on camera and I'm like of a certain size on my camera screen. So it gave this much higher flexibility to kind of like experiment and find myself, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was a very common feeling felt by everyone during the lockdown of the pandemic, of being forced to be in your house and going, what is life? What do I want to do? Sort of thing. So I would say like that's like the first kind of thing. And then like working for a company set in California kind of almost like raises my like standards in a way, or like working for a more progressive company like goes like, oh, this is like the bar sort of thing. It's not, you know, what's around me. It's like this is what it could be. But in terms of drawbacks, I'd say, you know, the usual sorts of things. It's like I heard Britta's story about interacting with all these people and being seen and handing out shirts, and I went, wow, I would have loved to do that, but I did not want to fly out and hand out shirts and fly home. And, you know, a lot of those kind of unstructured socializations and things like that, which can be mitigated through on-sites. In fact, there's a weekly video call for, or bi-weekly call for a QFAM that people will join and, you know, just chat about whatever. And when I had my on-site, another person that was doing their, or another person also had their on-site from another department, and we kind of walked back and then, or walked past each other and kind of fist bumped and went on their ways. So just nice to see that in-person solidarity.
Yeah, I hear you. You mentioned, and we have mentioned QFAM a couple times. So I want to talk about this to folks who are maybe outside of Cisco or Meraki, so everyone knows what it is. So QFAM is our employee resource group at Meraki, and it stands for Queers and Friends at Meraki. So that's what QFAM stands for. And it's a really special community. And every year in the month of June, QFAM has the dopest shirts every single time for Pride. They're amazing. But beyond that, there are events and there are meetings. And it's just an employee resource group. Again, queers and friends are welcome. And it's a really big employee resource group that we have at Cisco Meraki. And I want to hear from each of you. Tell us either maybe a unique event that stood out to you that you've been a part of, or, you know, some meaningful experience that you've taken from being a part of this community in QFAM. So Britta, I'll start with you.
Okay, so like I said, I've only been here for a couple weeks, but I found QFAM the first day that I got here, and I was super excited. I was like, wow, that's a really cool thing to have in Meraki. But Paul kind of mentioned it earlier. There's twice a month, I believe. There's like a WebEx meeting that people in QFAM will just, you know, they'll just hang out and talk about things. And I joined it this past week because I was like, I'm curious. I didn't know if I was allowed in because I was an intern, but I was like, I'll come and say hi. And I met a lot of people, and it was very, very cool to just get to, you know, connect with people, you know, learn who they were and what they did at Meraki, you know, what their lives look like. And it was just very interesting to like connect with other people. I also mentioned a little earlier, I handed out the t-shirts. They're very pretty this year. They're also made of a really nice fabric. So whoever ordered one, I'm very jealous of you. I'm on the wait list. I really hope I can get one. They're so nice. But I just, like I said before, I was handing out t-shirts to everyone in the office, in the San Francisco office. And people would just come up to me and talk to me about like who they were. Like I complimented their dogs, let me pet their dogs. Everyone was super friendly. I learned a lot about the company and people just by handing out t-shirts for 3 hours. It was very, 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 very fun for me.
I love that. Great way to meet people, especially when you're brand new. Rayanne, tell us about an event or something really meaningful to you being a part of QFAM.
So just last week there was a Pride trivia game event thing. And what I loved about that was that it had like some pop culture stuff, but it also had some LGBT history, and like it would give an answer, then it would like talk about Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and all the history that you don't necessarily learn going to public school. And so I was just so impressed about that and appreciative.
Ooh, that's a great example. Some history. I like it. Yeah, so I lead a sales organization. One of my managers got on and last week went over the history of Pride. So, like, how did it originate? What does it stand for? Why it's important? Events that we have going on. So, it's really cool to kind of hear and understand the backstory. So, I love that you called that out. Paul, what about you? What does QFAM mean to you, or something meaningful that you've taken away?
Um, yeah. So I believe there was one meetup that happened, I don't know, at some point. Either way, one QFAM bi-weekly meetup I joined, and I think not too many other people joined. It was like me and just like one or two other people. And it just kind of turned into this like heart to heart on like just a lot of gender feelings and like I was like talking about my whole fashion journey and like just one of these things where it's like I felt like I really got to like open up about a lot of subjects that don't really come up that much, like even outside of work for me. um and it was just kind of this really special bonding moment where like I'm chatting with there's as like other queer people sharing their experiences and kind of like giving me advice about like, oh, trying, I guess just the fact that like I was able to kind of like cultivate these like kind of stronger connections through this shared sense of queerness in the CRO. That yeah, that just, and it's funny because like it wasn't a special event or anything. It was just like certain couple of people got together and then some magic happened.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works. Thank you for sharing that. So we're gonna wrap up. We're on our last question. I can't believe it. It's been so much fun chatting with all of you, hearing your experiences. And I always like to end with some sort of call to action. And we hope that this discussion has inspired folks in the LGBTQIA plus community as they work to build careers in tech, as well out there if you're listening and you're an ally, right? And you want to help improve the industry, and help create more inclusive work environment. So let me ask each of you, is there a takeaway that you could share with us for folks out there who are feeling inspired to be an ally, join an ERO, to do more? What's one small step that you would recommend someone could take if they were feeling inspired after listening today? Britta, I'll start with you.
I guess to allies out there, be an engaged listener, be, open and willing to listen to anyone that's trying to explain their journey or where they've come from. Especially as someone who's very, very, very like brand new to the tech industry, it's very overwhelming sometimes, putting your foot in the door and, seeing everyone here. But I think for anyone who's similar to my position where you're kind of new to the industry and you're kind of just trying to find your way, don't be afraid to be who you are, ask questions, show up, put yourself out there. Majority of the time, people are willing to help you learn and help you, find where you're going, but also be willing to like take feedback and learn from what people are telling you. I think is a good point for me.
Absolutely. Okay, engaged listening for our allies out there. I love it. Ryan, what about you?
I would say being protective of your spaces and communities, making sure that they stay inclusive and are spaces that queer people are going to feel welcome, that everybody is going to feel welcome. Making sure that diverse voices get included in conversations and decisions. I think those are all good ways to be supportive.
Yeah, beautiful. Take us home, Paul.
Oh man, Ryan took mine. Yeah, I was going to say like create spaces where you can allow those that don't, conform to exist and flourish and be encouraged. It's the best way to put it. And
Yeah.
then yeah, protect those spaces. Make sure that like they stay good. They don't go away or become something bad.
Absolutely. see something, say something, right? It's not one person that can change something or make it an inclusive environment. Every single person has to be all in. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. This was such a fun episode. Tuning in to the Meraki Unboxed podcast. We appreciate it. We hope you listen, download all of our episodes, subscribe, tell all your friends. This episode is premiering in the month of June. So to all of our listeners out there, happy Pride Month. We hope you enjoy this episode today, and we will see you again in 2 weeks with new content. Take care, everyone.